art of wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entryway to the minds, the souls, the hearts, and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm a beach goer. I'm a traveler. I'm a border crosser. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and I am not coming to you live from my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. No, I am in a Marriott courtyard on Santa Monica Beach in Santa Monica, California for just 2 days before I head down to WrestleMania and see all of you guys in Orlando, Florida. Before we go any further, this is a fan supported and listener supported podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend, let somebody know. Tweet it out. Facebook it out. Best way that you can support, though, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. T-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads. It's a brand new Colt merch. It has been revamped. It looks beautiful. I got those micro brawlers on there. I got the buttons that I made myself. And I didn't make them for myself. I was the one that made them, and now I'm making them for you. I got women's shirts. I got kids' shirts. I got it all. ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. Frankie Kazarian is on the show this week. I hope this doesn't sound echoey. I'm in this big room. I'm in a giant room right now. First of all, I'm back to the beer thing, which I can't say who I'm with or not with, but I got another gig, and this time I'm in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the wrestling world, a place where they will barely give you $30 to sleep at some awful motel and barely want to pay you your gas money. Beer money? Oh, that's a big difference. And I ain't talking James Storm and Bobby Roode, although Bobby Roode's probably got some solid money these days, right? But beer money is like, here, fly here, stay on the beach. We'll take care of you. We don't know that wrestlers are usually servants and will do whatever and will probably work for a bag of Cheetos. So this is going pretty well. I'm keeping it up, and I'm in this giant room on the beach for 2 days. Although I saw the check and I didn't like it. Like in my head, there's this wrestler in me that why are you doing that, man? I could be staying somewhere else. Or that much money to stay in this place, which essentially is just a bed and just a larger room with more fun toys in it, or a TV that can play Netflix. I can't justify it, but I mean, it's getting paid for. And here I am, and probably the busiest schedule that I've had in a while, although it always seems to be this way. I did Cleveland, I did Windsor, I did London, drove home 8 hours through the night to catch an early flight to be here in Los Angeles for a meeting. I got the gig, then flying right to Orlando to do all of those Orlando shows. So I know it sounds great, and I break it down, and I'm like, oh, I'm in this bed. Oh, I go to the beach. Oh, I'm in Canada. Oh, I'm seeing these people. Oh, I'm going to Orlando. But to the layman, if I told them my schedule, they'd probably think I'm crazy. And maybe I am a little bit. Not crazy for having Frankie Kazarian on the show. He's a guy who's been at it. He's a guy who's done it longer than me, on kind of the same path, although he was on television a lot longer, and like real television when it was on Spike TV. But I think one of the key components that we kind of talk about at the end of this is longevity. How to stay in the game. How does one do it? Because both Frankie and I are guys who've almost been at this 2 decades now at like a solid, decent pace, if that makes sense. And when you look back at it, I don't think that's easy to do, especially guys who weren't giant WWE superstars. So like we couldn't coast off of some kind of name or anything. We couldn't coast off that bushwhacker push or that honky-tonk man push or biting an apple and spitting it out at somebody. That wasn't there for guys like myself and Frankie. And yet we've continued to make a living for a long time. And let's be honest, it's not a real job. I mean, it is. But I'm just talking into a microphone right now and sitting on a beach, and I'm going to be able to pay my bills. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Hey, Pro Wrestling Tees is having a 15% off weekend special. Use the code MANIA. Grab any T-shirt you want there. Speaking of T-shirts, I want to talk about something that happened to me in Austin, Texas at Wrestle Circus, which is, I don't know a thing. First of all, I did a tweet the other day about the Young Bucks having leggings for women, which I think was awesome. And in my head, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, I think I'm right. I'm bringing up the situation. Like, I'm doing a good thing because I quote tweeted and said that time that the Young Bucks forgot who their demographic was. Obviously bringing up the idea that that is a stereotype in wrestling, that it's only dudes 25 to 30 or whatever it might be. But obviously they're selling a shitload of these leggings, and I'm bringing up the situation and I'm making fun of it, bringing attention to it so it's something that's talked about. And while bringing it up, obviously in my head, saying how ridiculous it is and how untrue it is. And then I have feminist ladies coming out of the woodworks, bashing me for a thing that, to me, I'm on their side. And I don't know how to say, I'm with you. That's why I tweeted that. And then in Austin, Texas, okay, I don't know. This could have been very wrestling hipster of me, and maybe I'm sorry for this one, but this girl comes up to me, and she's like, at an indie show, at a Wrestle Circus show, and she's just like, oh my God, I've heard about you so much. This is so great. This is my first time at a wrestling show like this. It was so great to see you. You lived up to all my expectations. And then I said, oh, that shirt's hilarious, because she was wearing a Naomi t-shirt. That was like an awful WWE $27.99 t-shirt with, I don't know, Naomi. It was just a weird, generic Naomi t-shirt. And I said, oh, that shirt's hilarious. I love that you're wearing that. And then her face just went like completely straight, I guess. No expression. And she's staring at me. She goes, what do you mean? I go, well, that's a funny t-shirt to wear to a place like this. I love it. And she's like, Naomi's the best. Why would you say that? I love Naomi. Am I saying that wrong also? Naomi or Naomi, you get it. That wrestler. And then she just totally changed on me. And she was like, I thought you were cool. I can't believe you're coming here and judging me on my t-shirt. And I'm like, listen, no, like, oh, I'm sorry. It's great. I go, but you have to understand, you're at an independent show and you're wearing like a Naomi t-shirt. And that's kind of funny to be here. And no, she was having none of it. And I think I lost a fan. Like, she came up saying she was a fan, and I kind of took a funny path, and then I lost one. I had it, and then I lost it, because this girl was wearing a Naomi t-shirt at an underground cult-like independent wrestling show, and she wasn't wearing it ironically. She was just wearing it. So that's what I'm dealing with. And if you come up to me at a show and you're wearing a Summer Rae t-shirt, I'm going to say something, and hopefully you have a laugh with me. All right, before we get to Frankie, we do have a Song of the Week, and the Song of the Week is brought to you by Blue Apron. Hey, let's start cooking from home, all right? Less than $10 a meal per person, so when you do the math, it all makes sense. You're eating for cheaper with tons of options, cooking with fresh, high-quality ingredients. And not all ingredients are created equal, and that's why it's important to know where your food comes from. Blue Apron delivers easy-to-follow recipes, along with pre-portioned ingredients, courtesy of over 150 local farms, ranches, and fisheries across the United States, right to your door. Exact ingredients means no food waste. Also, home-cooked meals in 40 minutes or less. Let's see what's on the menu this April. Spinach and fresh mozzarella pizza with olives, bell peppers, and ricotta salt. Sweet and sour salmon with bok choy, carrot, and ginger fried rice. Parmesan-crusted chicken with cream fettuccine and roasted broccoli and baby broccoli. And fontina panini with hard-boiled eggs and arugula salad. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Colt. Feel like an adult. Make some home-cooked meals. BlueApron.com/Colt. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. The song this week is by Frankie Kazarian and his band, Vex Temper. They have an album coming out called Doom Engine on April 7th, available for pre-order right now on Amazon. They got a Facebook, they got a SoundCloud, they got a Twitter at Vex Temper. Frankie and I talk about this one in the talk ourselves. This is Get Addicted. You know, his tag team, The Addiction. Enjoy it. We'll be back with Frankie Kazarian.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, this week we're also sponsored by MeUndies underwear. You know, the things that wrestlers look like they're wearing, but they aren't, but kind of are. Maybe you got your wardrobe down, but what about the stuff underneath? Underwear is kind of an overlooked garment, and that's the stuff that's protecting the stuff, you know? All right, what is MeUndies? Well, it's a soft, feel-good undie delivered right to your door. They're designed right here in LA, where I am right now, and they're made from sustainable-sourced micromodal fabric, which I'm no doctor, but they're saying it's 3 times softer than cotton. That's soft. And also, I don't think doctors know whether underwear is soft or not. They come in different colors, shades, and patterns. Tailor them to your style. You can also save time and money by opting for a monthly subscription if you want, but you don't have to. You can get them one at a time. Most importantly, you could save 20% off your first pair when you go through MeUndies.com/Colt. Go to your underwear drawer. Get rid of those gross ones with the holes in them. You know you got them because I know I do. Revamp it. Stop getting the plain, boring 5-pack from the store. Get 20% off MeUndies at MeUndies.com/Colt. Once again, MeUndies.com/Colt.
Cantaloupe watermelon. That's what they tell extras to say in the background, right? In movies. I've heard movies and television shows to make it look like the extras are talking. Like in the back, say, for example, if they're in a restaurant and there's, you're focusing in on the two main characters, and in the background, people are having dinner and talking.
Are they talking or talking?
I've heard that most of them just repeatedly go watermelon, cantaloupe, watermelon.
Wow.
Because it makes your mouth look
just
like you're
watching you say that.
Cantaloupe,
I thought it was bullshit at first, but then watching
watermelon,
you say
cantaloupe, watermelon, cantaloupe. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
Wow.
I think Ken Anderson told me that, but then I heard it somewhere else, and I'm like, well, that.
I love that, like within our stupid bubble, like we don't have any real people we can talk to about it. It's just the one guy who was able to make a film because he was in WWE.
Right, exactly. But now I told you that, and you'll tell someone else.
Of course. Well, everyone listening to this will now tell everybody.
It has to be true. It had to happen. So
you were on movie sets.
I have been on movie sets. I have.
I don't think I've seen Backyard Dogs. Is that what it is?
Backyard Dogs. Yeah, that was my break. that was my big debut.
Have you seen John Morrison's trailer that just came out today?
Yeah, man. I just sent him a retweet on it.
That looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's his big break. And yours was Backyard Dogs.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to do a little bit better number than mine did. Mine was literally a break because it happened in. They shot the movie in 2000. I started wrestling in 98, and they came recruiting and talent scouting in 99. So this was like, wow, within a year and a half of being in the business, I'm going to be in a movie too.
You're like, this is easy. Although you California fucks had it like, I want to say not super easy, but
you're right.
Right? Everything was coming to you guys.
You're right. And I enjoy being called a California fuck. I wear that with a badge of honor. The funny fact about, I don't know if I've told a lot of people this, I turned down the lead role in that movie.
See, I don't even know what it is, and you'll have to kind of tell me everything about it. So it seems like is it a big-ish deal? I don't know.
No, at the time, for me, a 21-year-old kid, it was a Hollywood movie.
Was it?
Yeah, it was an awesome. It was wow. I never thought I'd be in a movie.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, this is when wrestling was at its absolute hottest. Backyard wrestling was a big buzzword and a big no-no and. But so this guy was filming a movie about backyard wrestling, and the plot, as ludicrous as it is. Sorry, Bob Boris, the director.
Oh, and sorry, Ludacris also.
Yeah, sorry, Lou Dowcris. Yeah.
Wait, is that a thing?
The spot Lou Dowcris. No, that's just a.
It's just you talking.
Kind of a made up. Yeah, just yeah.
Okay.
That's my agent, Lou Dowcris.
There it is.
Yeah. Him and Abe Surd. They run my.
Is that the? All right.
All right.
I was going to talk about a friend that we know who uses himself as a fake agent. Has gotten caught before with emails that crossed, but go on.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this guy wrote a script about basically these two backyard wrestlers who work through the backyard circuit, to use air quotes, and the payoff is they get a match with a Hayabusa, who's in the movie.
Really?
He's in the film. He's the big villain.
Where is this available?
Boss.
Anywhere?
Oh God, you could probably find it at any bargain bin in any horrible video store that's going.
Is it
out of
online?
business.
Streaming available anywhere?
It was on Netflix.
YouTube? It was on Netflix?
It was on Netflix for a while.
I only know the title from hearing you talk about it. Yeah.
I own a copy of it. But, that was the plot, and
somebody flew over Hayabusa.
Oh yeah, for weeks, because they filmed it out in the valley, out in Reseda and that area. I mean, a lot of the backyard scenes. So they first they came just to scout and to use a bunch of the guys as extras, and the guy took a liking to me for whatever, and I was kind of in charge of training the guys how to take bumps. The main actor and his sidekick, who was the guy that played the Black Power Ranger. Walter something. His name escapes me right now. But the first kid that was the lead role dropped out. He fired him. And Bob Boris, the director, just was really fond of me, and he called me and he said, "I want you to do the lead on the movie." And I already had the part of Snake Duggan. That's my character, by the way, Snake Duggan. And I was like, "Wow, I need some time to think about it." And he's like, "Absolutely, absolutely." And in discussing it with certain people at the time, I kind of determined that being attached to backyard wrestling was going to hinder me more than it would help me. Because I wanted to get to WWE and I wanted to be a legit wrestler. And backyard wrestling, you remember the stink
right
on it? Yeah.
That's like weird first 3 years, 5 years of wrestling politics that
absolutely
nobody gives a fuck about. But in your head, it means everything, right?
Yeah, for sure. I thought this will bamboozle my career. I'll be known as the guy that was in the backyard movie. And, so this guy, Bob was literally calling my house. I was living with my parents at the time. He's calling my house, leaving messages on my machine. This big, "Please call me back. I need you to do this role. I need you to do this role." And I finally called him back, and I'm like, I can't do the lead. I'm happy with the part. I'm very, very honored that you chose me for this part. And he's just like, and he just kept trying to talk me into it. And I'm like, I just can't, man. I'm sorry, I cannot. So,
but you still did this.
I still did my role. Yeah, they hired another guy who was like a soap opera actor, and yeah, I shot my scene in like 2 days out in the valley, and I was just Snake Duggan, and I challenged my opponent to a trunk match, which
to a Trump match?
Trump match. The winner has to vote for Trump. Be a fight to the death.
Right?
No kidding. No, the winner is the guy who throws his opponent in the trunk of a car because we're in a backyard and there's a Corsa car parked there.
I heard The Hangover stole that from Backyard. Is that true? With Dr. Ken.
So, yeah, man. Yeah, so we did it. It was fun, man. It was fun. It was an experience. But
have you done other movie stuff though?
Yeah, not movie stuff. I've done a lot of shows, just being out there, like especially early on. Like I did
California Fucks.
I did
taking up all the work.
I did that. I did the sequel. More California Fucks or California Fucks again. I've done like I did the show Blind Date. Remember that show?
Yes,
I did. Okay, I did. I was supposed to be on twice. I was on once.
I want to say my buddy was. Oh man, there was a college one my friend was on.
Yeah?
I can't remember it. Yeah.
Well, the first one, the one I did, the date was they came to a wrestling school. And,
Room Raiders. I think my friend did.
Oh, okay, I remember that.
Something one of those. All right.
Room Raiders.
Oh, you weren't one of the daters.
No, that story comes later.
Oh.
The first time I was on it, the date was they were going to go to a wrestling school and learn how to like take bumps and
Roger Lodge. I love that
Lodge.
show. Yeah.
Yep, it was great.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was a guilty pleasure. So the guy and the gal came to the school, and it was a little school that Billy Anderson was running out in Southern California at the time, and we just taught him basic stuff. And the guy was a total pussy. Like the girl and the girl was like fairly athletic, and she just like complete. I was just like,
she outshined.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely,
awesome.
So we did that, and then
that girl was Mickey James, and today,
yeah. She went on to make millions in the business. Right. And then later they had called me, and this is when I was doing stuff with UPW, and they had wanted a guy and a girl from UPW to go do the show, not to date each other, but to date someone of the opposite sex. So Looney Lane from UPW was the girl, and they wanted me to be the guy. So I went down there and I did my just my first interview. The guys are just putting themselves over, and I did it. And I'm kind of, especially back then, I was a shy guy by nature, and I'm just doing my thing. I like sports. I like going to the gym, just blah, blah. And so, I do it, and they're like, okay, now this time, take your hair out. I had the long hair. So I took my hair out, and they were like, here, put this on. They had me, this peach, tank top. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, now do it again, but this time you're a bad boy. And I'm like, okay. And so it's like,
Hollywood.
I like guns and motorcycles, and so I did it, and I felt real uncomfortable about it. And this is back when I still had some pride, and way back in the day. And they called me, they're like, okay, we're going to do your date on this date. And I was like, look, I don't feel comfortable doing it, blah, blah, and talked myself out of it.
Was it a good paying gig? If it was, would you have done it?
No, it wasn't. Even back then when I wasn't making anything, it wasn't enough to merit me doing it.
Okay.
Probably a few $100.
Yeah, because I think those shows are notoriously not,
dude.
Or even MTV, because my buddy who did Room Raiders then went on to become work for MTV. All those shows, I think that's the whole scam, isn't it?
It was obviously, man, because back in the day I'm making $40-$50 a match.
Right.
You know, even if it was like 500, I probably would have, you know, really seriously considered
Yeah.
it. But, you know, dude, in addition to that, like I did the Man Show back in the day when this is all when they would come just to the wrestling school and,
Right.
you know, because it was hot. And, you know, recently Chris Daniels and I did an episode of Glow.
I know. I'm so
It's gonna be
jealous.
on that. Yeah,
I'm so jealous.
that was fun, man. That was a lot of fun.
So I think it was one thing that you said was fun, and stuff that could get you, could harm you from getting a job. And I remember that made me spring of something that I remember was people. That was like Jerry Springer. Remember that? Those,
Yep.
and I don't know if you ever did that or was contacted to it.
No,
but it was like they were paying like $300 in a limo, but like then there was like a little rumor, and also CZW. If you did CZW, you
Yep.
weren't going to get hired by
Oh,
WWE.
that was the filthy, dirty extreme.
Yeah, which a
company,
lot of
yep.
people stopped, and you wonder, you know, how much truth there was to any of that. I don't know if you can think of any others. Those are the things too that came to mind.
No,
Tattoos, getting tattoos
Yep.
was one, and this was all in the. It's so weird how wrestling's changed,
all
isn't
this
it?
bullshit that we just bought into just because you never know, man.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're young and naive and green in the business, you just never know. No, that I remember some people from UPW went on the Jenny Jones show. Like it was Horseshoe.
Yeah.
And he played the role of like from bully to badass. And like, you know, I looked like this, and you know, they showed a picture of him when he was like 11, and now he's Horseshoe.
Yeah.
And yeah, just,
All the work,
all
all the
absolutely,
work, yeah.
100%, yeah.
and it's Springer's still going today, I think.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yep.
And he moved to Connecticut. I think to Stanford, by the way, which is odd.
Why not? But yeah, dude, that and like, you know, just I, you know, lucky enough to do a ton of auditions. You know, I got to audition for a Super Bowl commercial several years ago, and I didn't get that one. And that pissed me off
that's
because
the game changer.
that would have been it, dude.
That's a 6-figure job, right?
It's huge, dude.
I'd like to think.
It was for Full Throttle Energy Drink, which I hope they're out of business now because they didn't pick me for the spot. So
Didn't Aries do a Full Throttle?
maybe.
No.
I don't
Oh, he
know,
did
man.
like Viva La Soon? That doesn't sound. Does that sound right? No.
Is that a hair product?
Yes, but I'm not saying
Vidal
it right.
Sassoon?
Vidal Sassoon.
Vidal
Yeah.
Sassoon, okay, yeah.
You could find that. Stephen DeAngelis got him that gig. I remember.
Steven DeAngelis.
Yeah, it's so
Name
weird
I've
how
not heard in a long time.
we're all in. Oh, he took you to Alaska.
Alaska
See, this
and
is-
Trinidad Tobago.
What is? I don't even know what that last one is.
That's where I went first with them.
Trinidad.
The port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago?
I like my new character is Trinidad. He's like a black Dolomite from Spain.
Trinidad, yeah.
A Spain version of Dolomite is Trinidad.
Distant cousin of Sinbad.
Yeah, in Shazam,
Yeah.
that wasn't a movie
Yeah,
apparently.
dude, we did a show in Trinidad, and dude, he brought down me, Nova, the back seats, Low Key, C.W. Anderson, Jerry Lawler, Buff Bagwell, Road Dogg, just a who's who of guys, and did a show on the island there, man.
Was it Madness?
Oh, it was
what
crazy.
was the show like that? Was it when I picture that, I just picture on an island, like in the dirt, set up in a field, maybe somewhere.
It was like on a soccer field.
Okay.
The island itself was beautiful. It was very, very poor, though. The people were very poor, but they were sweethearts. You know, they were nice.
Everyone gets in that show for free, or how does that work?
I don't know. Probably, I think there was like a bot show, and they had some type of free. It was probably for some charity or something. And it was on a soccer. It was on like this big soccer field, and we had a match with the back seats, myself and Nova, when we were teaming. And at the last minute, they wanted us to make it a ladder match. And it's like, ugh, okay. So we make it a ladder match.
Wait, hanging from what? If it's outside in a side,
they had like light. They had like these real shitty
a
like
truss.
lights. And,
Gotcha.
yeah, and but anyways, they only had one ladder, and it wasn't it was just a lean-to ladder.
Yeah.
So, and it was made of aluminum, so it was destroyed and cut to bits. And like the finish was like Nova like putting the ladder on his shoulders and me basically climbing up that. And
Jesus. And Alaska, which I've never been.
how is that possible?
Me, never been to Alaska.
You've been to every corner of it.
Yeah,
How is
I've never
that
been to
possible?
Alaska. I've never been to Hawaii. There's a couple of places, and
Yeah,
you
I've
tell
never
me
been to Hawaii
because I
either.
know that that was Nova's big thing. Did Nova say he's been to all 50?
I think so.
Is that real? Idaho, I've never been to. Utah, I've never been to.
Yeah, I think I've wrestled in 44, 45.
Yeah.
And maybe 43 or 44. But
Wrestled in Wyoming?
I have. TNA ran house shows there. Man.
Really?
Yeah. Or like a house show there. Yeah. For a while, when TNA was just spitting them out, we went to Nebraska, Wyoming, Dakota, And
Yeah. That was
so
how you
that's-
checked a bunch
Yep.
off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even been in I haven't been in Hawaii either, so that's the one
I was supposed to. I don't know if you remember, my finger exploded.
I remember.
And
right.
yeah, and like it was me, Generico, and Matt Cross were going to do one show in Hawaii, and the promoter was going to put us up for like 5 days.
Oh.
And like I did mocap the day before, so like they were going to fly me to Hawaii. I had it all set up. It was so perfect.
Mocap injury.
Well, essentially it was. I mean, it wasn't, but it was while I was at mocap.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I didn't get to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, me neither, man. I guess I'll just wait, and that'll be my vacation spot. That'll be
it's got to be wrestling. I can't go.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Well, you're
Fair
married
enough.
to the kid.
Yeah, Chris
can,
Daniels went a couple years ago, and only because he got a wrestling booking.
There you go.
It, so.
See, that's how
I would not turn down a booking over there, though.
So if you run Hawaii Championship Wrestling, let us know.
Is that what it's called? Hawaii
I'm just making that
HCW.
It was AZW, I think. Action Zone Wrestling.
I think there's like an NWA affiliate too, if that's still a thing.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in high regards with them, the NWA anymore.
Oh, no.
Okay, you said you were shy. I find that interesting.
I've come out of my shell a bit in the last few years.
Yeah.
This business kind of forces you to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and especially, well, you didn't start with UPW though, right?
No.
Because I feel that those guys, it was just like I don't know. It's like, to me in my head, that place is just heightened. Like it's a place, but then it's just heightened with all that. Dude. Hollywood guys and Rick Bassman finding bodybuilders like
that was the appeal, man.
Yeah.
No, I started with Kowalski, but when I came back out to Southern California after working for about a year, I hooked up with Bassman. Funny story, Bassman fired me before I ever wrestled for him.
As a trainee?
No, as a wrestler. He fired me before I ever even stepped foot in a ring.
Okay.
I'll tell that story quickly. Mikey Henderson. I don't know if you remember Mikey Henderson.
Of course I
Suicide
remember
Kid.
Mikey Henderson.
He called me one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to come up and wrestle for these guys? You'll wrestle me, and it'll be like a decent payday." And I go, "Sure." And he goes, "Okay." That was it. Weeks pass, and I get calls at my house from Rick Bassman and the Big Schwag, leaving messages on the phone that like my dad is listening to. They're saying, "I can't believe you no-showed us. You'll never get a shot at WWE. You'll never work in this town again, kid."
And I also turned down Backyard Dog's lead.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to go to WWE, had I known.
I'm like, I'm making all these mistakes, man. And I get back in touch with him. I go, "Look it, man, he offered me the show, but I never knew it was confirmed." And so anyways, the next show, again, that offer came to me and I showed up, and this is at the time when UPW had nothing but like big jacked up guys and very, very few good wrestlers.
Yeah.
So me and Mikey went out there and had a good match, really good match. And so immediately Bassman's like, "Okay, no more heat, G." And I'm like, "Okay, good."
A good enough match, right?
I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." Yeah, you already fired me and I hadn't even worked here. So,
So I forget that you're an East Coaster.
I'm a Southern California guy that moved to Massachusetts to train for wrestling.
Just to wrestle? God, I might have known that, but we might have had that conversation 15 years ago.
Yeah, man. I looked at my options and I wanted to do it right. And I was a big, it's just, back in the days when I wrote in for the books on how to get into pro wrestling,
right?
Because there wasn't this explosion of information that there is now.
Do we have the same book? The one from
I got the one from King Kong Bundy and Larry Sharp, was it?
Ooh,
and there's another one from Percy Pringle.
Oh, I want to say I have a Captain Lou Albano one.
I don't have that one. See, I have the two.
It might have been Percy Pringle though.
Oh, okay.
A little pamphlet.
Yep.
From PWI.
Yeah. The
And
Aftermath.
in the back it says all the schools, but there's only like 7.
I got the addresses, and you had to write them like a letter, how archaic, and send it.
Yeah.
And I sent one to the Heart Camp, to Kowalski's, and to the Power Plant. And I got responses from the Power Plant saying, it's X amount of dollars, and got one from the Heart Camp. Actually met Bret Hart. And I told him, I was like, "Oh, I'm an aspiring wrestler." I'm like, where's a good place to get trained? Thinking he's going to say, of course, the dungeon, because Stu trains all the guys in the dungeon,
right?
Unbeknownst to me. And he put over Kowalski School. And he said, he's
where
training
you just went to a show as a fan?
Like a baseball card show.
Okay.
That he was signing at, just to get in my, excuse me, Mr. Hart.
Right.
And I was like, wow, if Bret Hart's recommending Kowalski's.
Yeah, that
so I just saved up the money, man, and just made, it was the equivalent. I didn't go to college or anything, so it was the equivalent of saving my money and getting trained by the best, or what I thought was one of the best schools in the country.
And that was at 18 or
19.
19.
Yep.
So So what from 18 to 19? If you went to high school and you and I are the same. We told our guidance counselor that we wanted to be wrestlers. They laughed at us, right? Does that sound familiar?
Especially me, because I was quite small. And
were you?
Oh yeah, I was like I had gotten taller by my senior year, but my freshman year I was 5 foot and 100 pounds.
Wow.
Smallest guy on the football team, just a stick.
When did bodybuilding become a thing?
When
you realized you wanted to be a wrestler?
Right when I graduated high school. Like I always knew I wanted to, but when I graduated high school, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to really hit the gym.
Yeah.
And I was always intimidated by the gym. Like I trained for high school football, but I did enough just to get by.
Yeah.
Because I was always, when you first start in the gym, it's fucking intimidating. So I was always just like, but when I finally like went and really took it seriously, and when you're just training to get big and just eating whatever you want, putting on size, it's awesome because you see results pretty quick, especially when you're young. And your muscles.
Not me.
Well, going from a 140-pound kid to a 190-pound kid was a huge difference for me. So yeah, that was like 96, right after after high school.
After you graduated high school, you're like, I'm gonna give myself a year to get big. Is that the plan?
To get into shape and to save money, to go to wrestling school, to work, shoot jobs, save money, get at least bigger.
Where did you get the money for what job?
I worked at after high school. My parents had a tanning salon.
Yeah, I knew that.
So I worked there. But when I got like real jobs, I worked at Toys R Us, stocking shelves. Then I worked for the longest time. I worked at Champ Sports in the mall.
All right,
which I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
you got to sell shoes like Al Bundy. So
why did your parents have a tanning store? Were they tanners? Or
they wanted to buy business. We live in they live in a small town in the desert. It was one of those. There's pretty much one of every business. Mm-hmm. They bought it from the lady who had fallen ill, and they made it very successful. And it was the only shop in town, and constantly busy. And it was.
Were they big tanners, or they're just like, we want a business?
They became big tanners.
Yeah,
they wanted a business, but like my mom was a client before.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but she got that, and then I saved up the money working at Champ Sports and doing like construction and labor jobs and stuff, and just
So you go out to Kowalski's. Yep. Do you get an apartment, or does he set you up with one? There is no. I mean, the internet's around, but it's barely around, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like even talking to him, like if you spoke to him on the phone and said like I'm coming out there to train, he'd be like, okay, and you'd be like, oh, is there do you have any like set up with rooms?
I'm a child, sir.
Yeah, exactly. And
essentially, I'm a child.
And he just goes, no, you have to find your own place.
Fuck.
So dude, a buddy of mine had gone out there about 2 weeks before me. And he was, at that time, living in the loft of an apartment. So I go out there. I started training the day of WrestleMania 14, the day Austin won the belt in Boston. That was the day I started in the business. And I met Walter, and he was super nice. I think he always respected the fact that I moved that far just to come to his school. But anyways, I lived for the first month. I lived in that loft with two other dudes. A tiny loft with two other dudes, my buddy and a referee, and it sucked. After maybe 2-3 weeks, my buddy he was from where I was. He got fed up, couldn't take it, and bolted home. The other guy got kicked out. We essentially got kicked out, so I had nowhere to live. So I was like, shit. So I had enough money to put myself up like in a motel for like 3 days.
Oh, man.
And I literally, I put myself up for 3 days, and at this point, I'm just hemorrhaging money. I'm like, God dang it. And I was like, if I don't find a place to live in 3 days, dude, like I don't know what I'm going to do.
But I mean, going back wasn't an option.
It wasn't, man.
Right.
So it was just like, what am I going to do? Like, I was like, I don't want to do the cliche wrestler where I had to sleep in my car and all that, but it was like, I will,
yeah.
But I put in applications for a job, and I was looking for a place to live. On the third day, I got the paper that morning, and I saw room for rent, Linfield, Massachusetts, $100 a week.
Ooh, that's good.
So I go up there, and it was the old police barracks off of Route 1, and it was this very nice old lady. It was almost like a boarding house or something, because there was like two other dudes that lived there, and I told her, I'm here to look at the room, and she showed me the room, and I was like, I'll take it right now. And I lived there for the rest.
What'd you do? You shared like a bathroom and a.
I shared the bath. Yeah, I lived like my room was in the upstairs. Like this place was the old police barracks. So it was huge. So the two dudes that lived there, they lived like downstairs.
Did you become friends with these guys?
No, I never saw them. I never saw.
Wait, wouldn't you cook meals with them in the kitchen or anything?
like they were never like the hours I kept because when I worked, my job was night shift.
Yeah.
So I worked from 11 to 6 or whatever. So I never saw any of them. But I was up on the side with the old lady. So we had the same bathroom, me and the old lady, and then downstairs was the kitchen, and down the basement was the washing machine and all that.
Do you think like she needed the money, or she was just like?
I think she was just a sweet old lady that was like, oh, if people need a place to stay, they can stay here.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I would run into the dudes every once in a while and just be like, hey, how's it going?
Right.
And like they all like got along. They would all be sitting down there watching TV, but I would just go up to my quarters but I worked the night shift at Stop and Shop, stocking shelves. So and when I wasn't there, I was just always at the wrestling school or doing something wrestling.
Who was the Trips? Would he show up to the old?
No, man.
No.
Apparently at the time too, he would. I don't know if he distanced himself from Walter. You know.
Oh, is that a thing?
I think some of the guys had said that, but I never saw it, man. Because like even at Walter's funeral, like he was the pallbearer, and you could tell he was very very emotional. So I think that was just the bitter guys that were still there. Like, he never comes around anymore.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, he's kind of busy,
Who were the stars that were around? I feel I just talked to somebody but
the biggest star that was still there when I was there was Prince Albert.
A-Train, yeah.
They had signed him. This was back when they would sign guys, and just he kept doing indies. Just they signed him so he wouldn't go to WCW, and that was the developmental back then was just keep doing indies until we bring you up.
So I think you first made your I think I want to say UPW. You tell me when you started getting. Did you do the Super 8? Was that a thing too?
Yeah, I did, but that was several years later.
That was years later.
Yeah.
Well, then it must have been but even before Ring of Honor, you were gaining buzz somehow.
Yeah,
It must have been UPW.
UPW is what got me the exposure because it was a hot territory.
Yeah.
And then teaming with Nova,
That might have been.
that got me bookings back east, which I never really had.
And that's what I was going to ask. Did you do East Coast work before you went back to Los Angeles?
No, I wrestled my first 4 or 5 matches in New England.
Yeah.
But just complete, squash matches or just a couple battle royals, a couple singles matches.
You lose to Tito Santana.
I wrestled a dark. Yeah, I wish Tito Santana. I wrote Tito Santana asking if he would train me.
Yeah.
I sent a letter to Titan
Specifically?
Towers. Yes, to Stamford, Connecticut, to Tito Santana because he was my favorite wrestler when I first got into it, asking if he would train me. Funny story, but what was I going to say? No, I
did a dark match.
I did a dark match at ECW. And
what?
A dark match for the boys only.
Oh, I did one of those.
And this was when I was still at Kowalski's. And
Yeah.
he used to go to the shows when they were up in New England. And I wrestled a guy, and this is when I'm just months in.
Yeah.
I wrestled a guy named Delicious Dave Vicious, who was this big jacked up blonde guy who they were giving him a look, and they put me in there with him. And surrounding the ring is Tommy Dreamer and the Dudleys and Taz and Sabu and Rob and Lance Storm and just all these badasses. I was mortified, dude. And it was just like a 5-minute match, but it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. They were looking at Danny and Ace, my trainers.
Okay.
And it was fun to go because they took me with them, and I was probably the same 4 or 5 months in or whatever, and I tagged with Pablo Marquez.
Oh yeah.
But there was no. Who was the Prodigy? The Prodigy.
Tom Marquez.
Tom Marquez.
Yep.
And there was no pressure on me because it's not like I was trying to get a job.
Right.
Did you feel the same way though?
No, there's no pressure. I was just nervous because I loved ECW and these guys there. I was intimidated.
Yeah. I was just happy to be in the locker room.
Oh sure, I was thrilled to be there, but I was just intimidated. Didn't want to screw up.
Sure.
And 30 seconds in the match, Kowalski stands up and goes, "Stop! That was the shit," because we did something wrong, and it was just so I'm embarrassed on top of it all.
But your trainer is respected there. My trainers are the ones in there trying to get a job that are still kind of no one really respects or cares about.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah. And then what made you move back to California?
Ran out of money, man.
Ran out of money
and got really homesick.
Yeah.
I was doing okay.
What was did you have a vision of being out there and then taking on the indies or taking on anything, or did you know about any indie companies?
That was the idea. New England was a hotbed at the time, and they had one of the promotions up there might have been called CWE, and they had television, and I was like, wow, if I could just get on this to start, that would be cool. And I thought it was a good place to be based because everything is Northeast. But yeah, it was just a matter of I got homesick, I got very broke, and And I talked to Walter and told him, I said, like, I basically have to go and,
Did you ask, like, is my training done kind of thing?
Kind of. See, he always, he was always very complimentary to him. Like, I got the benefit of, I used to ride with him to practice all the time. So we get there early and he would do one-on-one training, which was a rarity, especially because he was getting up there in age. And I just basically told him I have to do something I had to do. And he told me, he's like, Jesse Hernandez has a good school out there. And I'm like, okay, good. Because I still wanted to continue, my training wasn't complete. I had to go to a different Yoda to get trained. So I did make sure that I was like, okay, if I got Walter's blessing that there's a decent school in California, I think I got a good enough foundation that I could go out there and do something,
And so that you went to Jesse first.
Went to Jesse and Bill, EWF, yeah.
Yeah, and so so you didn't really, did you train at UPW then?
Yep.
Is that just the idea is you wanted to get in with those guys?
Yep, I did everything. I bought in 100%, man. I bought in and became one of their guys, and I would go to I would go to their training class on Saturdays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and I live 2 hours plus from their building. But yeah, I went to their I would help teach their beginners class. I would go to the promo class. I would go to wrestling class. Then we would do the light shows, which was just like the shows with all the students.
And so you kind of became a guy. So would he like hook you up with random stuff?
He would. Yeah, he would. I did a commercial for WWF back in the day because of Bassman, like a baseball themed one where I was a catcher and I got speared by Edge. And then I was also a base runner and I was rounding third and I got hit in the back with a trash can by Ron Simmons 9 times.
In your head, is there a thing like, well, I'm just collecting a payday? Or are you like, man, maybe I'll become friends with Edge? Or like, I don't know, maybe this is a nice way.
I was collecting a payday, but I absolutely was thinking like, wow, what can I do to make these guys remember me or to let them know, hey, I'm not just I also wrestle guys.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't want to ruffle the feathers.
Of course. You just
and I had, even before I got to UPW, I had already done dark matches and stuff.
I was gonna say, like, are you one of these guys who's done 1 million of those?
Yeah,
things?
I did a lot, man, and I did my first one in like early 2000. And I wrestled Funaki, and so I was doing it before I got to UPW, which was beneficial to me. Because back then it was a lot more laid back,
Someone just posted like Bobby Roode's first match, and it's I forget it was but he's jacked up, he looks great, and you just look at it. It was his first match, WWE match, and he's like Velocity as the jobber, but you look at him, you're like, how did they not like go? Oh, we should probably sign this guy.
There's something there, yeah.
And I know, but also you look, it's changed so much. Is that like? Everyone was just yoked out of their, so like he didn't stand out.
No,
If you watch all of those matches, all of the extra talent are just
everyone looked like a star pretty much, or looked good.
Yeah,
just jacked and tanned and long hair, and it's just different, man. Like everyone looked.
It's so different.
Everyone
now.
was a head turner at least.
Even the Scrubs.
Yeah.
Specifically the Scrubs.
You couldn't look normal. That was just it. You couldn't look normal. Like I had to have the long sleeved hair and be tan and just hot stuffed up and just
right.
It's just,
and you didn't even stand out at all.
No. Nope. Just a little undersized long hair kid, but
who did you have matches with?
I had matches with Funaki. I had matches a couple singles matches with him, a couple tags with Funaki and Taka, Bob Holly. Which is a fun one. Bob Holly, Crash Holly, and I did a lot of darks. Like one of my favorite ones was the night after Triple H tore his quad, and they did that crazy ladder match on SmackDown. The dark match that night was me and Nova against Chris Daniels and Mikey Henderson, and we had a great one. And yeah, I did. I would go anytime they were in Cali, Vegas, Arizona. So I did a bunch of them.
Who was the nice guy that was back there?
Man,
Mick Foley.
A lot of Jericho was super nice.
Yeah.
When I was talking to him, because I remember I had a couple CDs and we liked the same type of music, and he's like, "Oh, let me see that CD," and we started talking, and there was it seemed back then it was fucking better back then than it was when I actually worked there. Like it was just more laid back. It was more like.
Well, they say now it's the most laid back, I think.
Really?
So when you were there, it was.
I felt it. When I was employed there, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. When I was just there doing like jobs and velocity, I felt fine because
Really?
Yeah, it was weird.
That's
like,
very
and I
odd.
know it's changed so much that you don't even change in the, you got your own little curtained off area. But like this is back when I started doing it. We changed in the locker room
with Benoit.
sitting right. Yeah. And like no one, maybe if I wasn't supposed to, but nobody ever said anything.
Yeah.
The only time somebody gave me attitude is one time Brian Christopher came in the room and he goes, "Hey, does any of y'all have socks?" And like me and like two other guys, and we're like, "No, sir, sorry." And he's like, "What? You came here to work and you don't have socks, you fucking marks," and walked out. And it was just like, oops.
Were you like, is socks code for something?
I know, yeah. But then I'm thinking like, where are your socks,
Yeah,
dude?
yeah,
you
yeah.
work here. Like,
Well, and there is a story. I don't know it, but there is a story of like why there's an extra talent changing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
I
it's
can
interesting
imagine,
that you
man.
were there before that. Like, so maybe I should do some investigating journalism.
what that was, what the turning point was.
There definitely was a story of we can't have these guys in here anymore.
I wonder if it was just a matter of someone like everyone back then when they would come to do like enhancement matches, like, we were all super respectful. We knew our place, there was
Yeah, but you know that you know that, and then it gets to the point where it's like they start picking people that aren't,
I guess
and
so,
they're
man.
idiots,
I
and they're
guess so.
dummies. And
I
that's
guess so.
when
I
you-
loved it though, and this is back when they paid decent too.
Yeah.
And you got and you get paid even if you didn't work, and if I was just there to, and I could never be an extra because I had long hair, so I didn't look like a security guard or a
Right.
cop or something. So,
Right.
but I would get paid regardless. So
So when you were there, what you had a weird deal. You didn't go to developmental, right?
Nope.
But you like started on Velocity.
Yep.
Is that right?
They signed me in February of 2005. And
So you did some TNA stuff before that?
oh yeah, I was in TNA for a year and a half. And
Right.
My contract ran out with TNA, and TNA just didn't even realize that it did.
Well, that doesn't sound familiar at
No,
all.
that's as astonishing as that is. TNA, unbeknownst to them, my contract ran out, and I told Nova this, who told Tommy Dreamer this, who was in charge of talent relations at the time. And he calls me and he goes, "I understand you don't have a contract with TNA." And I'm like, "I don't." And he goes, "Send it to me, please," because he had legal check it out. And he's like, "Well, you're free." He basically told me that WWE was going to completely revamp the cruiserweight division.
And one of these, huh?
Uh-huh. And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "And we'd like to bring you in." I was okay, as a cruiserweight, because I guess I'm a cruiserweight, and they were going to revamp it, which didn't end up happening.
Right.
But that's what I was brought into. They signed myself, I think Kid Cash, the Mexicools. They signed a bunch of us at the time.
I was gonna say, is that also when Billy Kidman's cousin got signed?
Oh yeah, I think that was a little bit later. Mikey Batts.
Mikey Batts.
Mikey
Yeah.
Batts,
Okay.
yeah.
That was another time they were gonna. That was for the minis, I think.
Yeah,
And Mikey Batts
something
was a
like
mini.
that. Yeah, this was a whole. They were bringing back the cruiserweight belt and everything, and it literally
It didn't happen.
It lasted maybe.
But you were what? They were just like, let's put you up.
They brought me in and they signed me, and they just said, "Okay, finish up your indie dates and wait to hear from us." Finished up my indie dates and just waited and waited and waited. And I would call in. I'd be like, "Hey, everything good?" And I would talk to John. He'd be like, "Yeah, fine, just hang out." And like, I'm getting like anxious because it's been like, instead of just sitting home and collecting a check, I'm not wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I want to do something.
Well, this is your dream, right?
And I'm just like, I feel like time's passing me by. And I kept kind of calling and bothering. And Johnny finally goes, "Well, why don't you move down to Atlanta?" Because this is when they just opened Atlanta as like the, from what I understood, it was like the beginner school. Then they sent him to OVW and then the main roster.
Right.
And I was like, "Johnny, like, why? I don't want to go to a wrestling school. Like, I didn't, and I guess it's ballsy of me to say that.
Very ballsy.
But that's kind of my thing. Kind of always been a bit rebellious. And
Yeah.
and I was just like, move to Atlanta, like, And he's just like, "All right, we'll just hang tight." And then maybe a few weeks later, they called me and had me start on Velocity, which was funny too, because this whole time they were thinking of they're like, "We're still thinking of a gimmick for you." This writer I was in touch with, he's like, "I'm in charge of coming up with a gimmick for you." And so he finally calls me. He goes, "I got a great gimmick." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" He goes, "You're going to be the future Frankie Kazarian," which is what I was.
Jesus
And I was like,
Christ.
Awesome, let's do it,
Sir,
Awesome.
you go, "Sir, you are a
You're a
genius."
genius.
Yeah.
So I was the future Frankie Kazarian, which was cool. I went there with my own name, which was kind of unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
So
And then what? Can we tell this story? I got to know what makes a man get out of there.
I hated it, man.
for a guy who was that was your dream. And the idea of not being like, oh, I'll wait it out and see if it gets better.
No, yeah, man. And I was just in such a different place at that time. But I was like, you'll understand this better than anyone else. When I was there, it turned into, it wasn't my fun wrestling thing. It was my job that I do in this corporate world, and like it really, and I 100% admit I just wasn't mature enough to be there as a man and as a wrestler, and I just didn't have the business sense. And it just wasn't my fun pro wrestling anymore. Mm-hmm. I wasn't with my friends. I wasn't I get to do my style of match. Everything was micromanaged. And that's how they do shit up there, man.
Right.
But at the time, you couldn't get that through my thick skull, and it was just like, and I was like, it's killing me. It's draining me. Like, you reach your dream and it sucks. 100% my fault that it sucks, but it sucked because I wasn't having fun. I had some friends up there like Paul London and Stevie Richards, but I just, like I said earlier, I just felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells.
But were you not like the idea of like, this is how money, because it's so hard to make a living in wrestling. Mm-hmm. But I guess you were kind of making it in TNA, right?
Yeah, and I was told by several officials in TNA that when I did leave, they said, if it doesn't work out up there, you always have a spot here.
So that was in the back of your head.
Oh God, yeah. So my naively or arrogantly thought, well, F this place, I can just go back to TNA, which wasn't the case.
And it wasn't anything specific. It was just, it all built up, and it
built up. The haircut thing was real. That's not why I quit, because they could have asked me to change my tights, and I would have said no. I was just rebellious, and it was just like,
over it.
Yeah. And it was like, well, what? Cut my hair so I could look like everyone else that's coming up right now. Like, I thought I was hired to be different or to be myself, and it was just. And I could see the writing on the wall. There was going to be no cruiserweight division, like.
So you like me just hate the idea of authority.
I'm very rebellious, man. I've lost jobs.
Yeah.
And I just, I do hate authority, and I realize that a job's a job, and you do what your boss tells you.
Yeah.
If they tell you to write with blue ink, don't write with black ink. But at the same time, I'm very proud that I even back then stuck up for myself, because there's so many guys get shit on in this business and just get walked on. And it was like, I'll take the hit, maybe I'll never come back here, but at least I'm, sticking up for yourself is big to me.
But it is true. Like, they'll go find we're all replaceable.
Oh God, absolutely.
They'll go find someone else. It's not like this thing that you've done. No. You have to realize, and I'm glad that you did, is like, this is 100% for yourself, so your happiness.
I mean, let's be honest. I would have probably, been released at some point. I mean, who knows? I could have blown. I hear people that worked there at the time going, "Oh, you were in for a huge push," and I was like, "Was I really?" Like, maybe I was. Maybe I made the worst decision of my life, but I don't think so.
Because a couple of years later, I know like you were looking at feelers or seeing what was there, and. Yeah, like I guess like when does your mind change, or do you have a realization, or did you like think that there was regrets there, or? I
mean, I was when I first did it, I was happy. I was like, you know what, screw them. I walked away on my own terms. And then anytime you leave a company and all of a sudden you're my indies are popping up huge, and still collecting my 90 days, and I'm living high on the hog, and Are
you a short-term thinker?
Some in certain things I am.
Yeah.
Well, back then, yes,
then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, not so much. Now
I would know that, like, even when I got fired, I was like, okay, I know my indies are going to be hot for like 2 months, and then I better find, I started a podcast, and essentially, like, I knew like I needed something. But you're just saying like, well, my indies are hot.
Yeah.
They'll probably stay hot forever.
If this had happened now, I would have thought twice, because but back then, being a younger man, being not as mature, absolutely didn't even
thought this would last forever.
And again, I had the TNA in my back pocket,
right?
Which didn't end up happening.
When you got money, did you spend it a lot? Are you a saver?
I didn't. I wasn't a big saver, but I'd never and do not live outside my means. No.
Okay.
Like my first big purchase when I was making good TNA money was I bought a big screen TV for my apartment.
That's fine.
So no, that was never an issue with me. But yeah, after the 90 days ran out, and I was still pretty. I was wrestling a lot out in the East Coast, and Jersey All Pros taking good care of me at the time, and and TNA didn't come calling, and I had to kind of, hey, what's going on? Oh well. And so, I was Thought I was going to go back in November 2005. That turned into July of 2006. So those were very lean times.
Right.
You know, just living back then, just living off the indies was tough. You know, like very few guys, present company excluded, could do it. You know, so
I think you were working at the tanning salon. I think you remember.
I might have gone back to working at the I might have, man.
Yeah.
I was helping my buddy of mine do odd construction jobs just because, you know, money was tight, man. Living off the indies back in 2005 and 6 was difficult.
But I think that this, and when I knew I was doing this with you, I think the idea is just longevity.
Yep.
And I think it's admirable, you know, for guys, you know, like you and I, but this is, you know, mainly this is your podcast today, is the idea of, 18 years now or whatever, 19
It'll
years?
be 19, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Essentially, I mean, you know, full-time-ish. And I don't know if you have any, have you thought about it, like keys to why you've been able to stick around or how you've been able to sucker, you know, everybody into this being your living, not having to get another job or anything else.
Shut up.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's, you know, I mean, obviously we're good at what we do. I like to think. But it's pretty. I always think it's pretty wild that for some fucking reason I'm able to still do
here.
Yeah.
We're still, you know, I think,
and others, so many, and especially you being a part of that Super 8. Like that was those all.
yeah.
You think of all those people in that Super 8 who were supposed to be like the next guys,
Yep.
and the Chance Beckett's of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like are fucking nowhere to be found.
he was in the one I did that.
There you
night.
go, right.
He was in the finals of the one I did. Yeah. Again, man, I can attribute it to being, you know, being professional is a huge thing. You know, people. We come across so many scumbags in this business and just so many unreliable people. Just if you're a good to decent hand,
right?
You know what I'm saying, and you're professional and you get along with people and you treat others with respect, you know, and you have some type of athleticism or character or look or a combination of all those, you can make a decent living in this business. You know, I'm living proof of that. You know, I'm not the biggest, not the best, you know, not the best promo, but I feel I'm good at everything. I'm obviously good enough to last, you know, 19 years doing it.
I say that too a lot. Is just like, oh, well, I'm reliable. I'll never cancel a show. I'll show up early. Yep. People know that, like, oh, if I book him, he'll come to the show. And
you're gonna have good matches with everybody. You know, you're not somebody that they're gonna book and go, okay, we only have to put him with this guy. They can put you with anybody on the card. You know.
Well, I mean, but that comes with becoming a good wrestler. This is things outside of being a talented wrestler.
Yeah,
it's just not being a shithead,
being able to deal with all people from all different walks of life, man. Yeah, and I've always done that, and I've always, you know, treated people with respect, and you know, been very fair with promoters, and you know, had a lot of, you know, made a lot of good relationships. You know, probably just like you did, and guys that just, you know, booked you in 1998 that are still booking you to this day, which is super cool, you know. So
have you done, like, the first places you wrestled? This is something I've done recently.
Yeah.
Is like those places I wrestled in 99, 2000, and then like 17 years later wrestled there and been like a little bit of like, what am I still doing this? But also being like, this is so cool that I'm. Have you had any of those?
Yeah, I did. EWF, which was Jesse and Bill's school, they had their federation. They just did their 20th anniversary last year, and they asked me to do the show, and they put me in their Hall of Fame, brother. So I'm a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Was it the same building though?
It was a building that I did wrestle for them back in the, not when I first started, but like in the early 2000s. So yeah, they brought me there, and it's and I wrestled Scorpio Sky. We had a really good match. He's a great wrestler, and same thing. It was like, well, this is cool, but then like you see some faces from the past, and like guys that are still like doing it, but like just doing it at that level. And no disrespect, man, because God bless him. If you love it, you love it. But I'm just like, I don't think I could have done it, man. Like if I was still just doing that stuff,
right?
I don't think I would have. I think I would have. You know,
sometimes the same fans, right?
Sure.
There was one I did there.
Same like, fans, and just you know, the same guys, just a little bit older, and just still doing. And, you know, they're just like, oh, still doing the stuff, brother. And like, yeah, me too, man. Like, yeah, and it's weird, and it's, you know, I don't, because I'm exclusive as of right now, so I don't really do a lot of indies, but that was one example, man, and it was cool, but it was just like, yeah, and you know what, man, there's kind of like I kind of miss the innocence of that time, you know, when there's like you and your your crew of guys are working on the same shows, and you're just all striving for something.
$40 is amazing, by the way. I remember like putting that $40 in my wallet and just being like, look how much more money there is in my wallet.
I remember doing 4 shots in SoCal on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Me and B-Boy would get in the car and work San Diego up to Port Hueneme, down to Orange County, and then in LA. And if we made $40 a shot, it's $160. We were high, rolling. It's like, the case of Corona's on me tonight, bro. Right. I got it. It was just, So there's that innocence that it's kind of, that you will never get back, because we become jaded, grizzled.
Sure. But in 20 years, you'll be nostalgic for this.
For these times.
Yeah. So that's
times when I could stand upright and walk without. Yeah.
Had a nice tan.
Yeah. decent shape. Had a nice tan. Yeah.
Where are you at on the internet?
Frankie Kazarian on Twitter and Instagram, Frankie Kazarian Official. My band's Vex Temper.
You just put out an album.
We just put out 2 singles. Our album's coming out April 7th.
Do you sing on that?
I play bass guitar.
Is there any songs about wrestling?
There's no songs about wrestling. There is the song Get Addicted, which I wrote for our entrance music when we were turned heel in Ring of Honor the first time. So
can I play that for Song of the Week?
You absolutely can.
Get Addicted.
Yep.
Well, we already played it. I hope I remembered. Otherwise, it's something else. Long term, what are you thinking?
Man,
go with the flow. You're thinking short term. Whatever happens next week.
No. I'm definitely, there's definitely an end game, but I'm really, in the last several years, I'm really having more fun than I thought I was going to have. And I'm still, my body feels great, all things considered. Parts of me are falling apart, but I feel great. I feel like I'm still moving good. And being here, like we can, still go out there and keep up with guys that are sometimes 10, 15 years younger. Yeah. So. And I think I always told myself I was going to be one of these guys that was just going to be done and that was it, walk away. But I think I do have something to offer, whether it be on commentary or whether it be in some type of, helping guys. I think I have a decent mind for it. So we'll see, man. I'm not, that door's definitely open.
You're not rushing to run out of here just yet.
Nah, man. I'm still having too much fun, dude.
Perfect.
Yep.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. I finally made it here.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here, man.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, Frankie Kazarian, a long time coming having him on the show, and I'm glad we could finally get it done. I know he'll be heading down to Florida just like I am. I put my schedule on my website. I'm doing like 10 events. Come down, come say hi, buy a micro brawler, buy a t-shirt, or don't. Take a picture, just shake my hand, tell me you're into it. That's what I like the most about these things. These are such a fun time. We're getting ready. You're flying down right now listening to this talk, or you just listened to this talk. Now it's over. Now hear my spiel. Make sure you listen to my plugs and
upcoming events.
ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW podcast, also /Colt Cabana. My storytelling podcast, Pro Wrestling Fringe, plus past archives of the show are ad-free and they're on howl.fm/Colt. Use that code COLT. Get yourself a free month. April 17th, we're taking down episodes 1 through 300, so get them downloaded or grab yourself a subscription to howl.fm. ColtWrestling@gmail.com is my very public email. Maybe a promoter will put me on an upcoming show or convention. YouTube. I got a YouTube channel. I put up some Sex Ferguson stuff. It's really funny. ColtCabana.com is my website. That's where you can send stuff to my snail mail because I got a P.O. box on that website that will tell you that information. Upcoming. I already did that Wednesday show for Atomic Wrestling. Thursday, 4 p.m., live podcast with Larry Zbyszko. tinyurl.com/Colt and Larry. 8:30 p.m., WrestleProOnline.com. Friday and Saturday, WrestleCon, 10 to 5, 10 to 4, respectively. Live podcast at 4 and 3, respectively. Friday night is the WrestleCon show. Saturday night is the Ring of Honor show, where I will be doing commentary. Friday, April 7th, South Bend, Indiana, Facebook /Join the Revolution, RCW. Saturday, April 8th, Baltimore, Maryland, ROHWrestling.com. Friday, April 14th, Mesa, Arizona, PartyHardWrestling.com. Thursday, April 20th, Cape Breton, Canada, Facebook /ACWA Wrestling. Saturday, 22nd, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, CapeWrestling.com. Sunday, April 30th, Austin, Texas, WrestleCircus.com. And I'm doing a live podcast at Brick Brack Records in Logan Square right before the AAW show on May 6th. It will be free. It will be a live Art of Wrestling taping. More information to come. That is the show. Thank you to you guys at home for listening. Sorry if the quality was a little bit echoey. I'm in this giant room. Thanks to Frankie Kazarian. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone. Thanks to Kid Russell, Matt Jenkins on the music, Dave Miller with some tech. Sponsors, highspots.com, a VOD service that is amazing. Subscription box, $5 wrestling, AMA, knee pads, gear, mask, wrestling rings, they got it. 1 Hour Tees, they help produce ProWrestlingCrate.com. They help produce ProWrestlingTees.com. That's where you can directly support your favorite independent wrestler. TweakedAudio.com/Colt. The earbuds that I use get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. I just finished talking about this, and now I'm going to go film some beer stuff. I think eventually I could tell you about it. I slipped on Twitter a month ago. Some of you guys know the deal. Some of you don't. You just hear me saying beer stuff. So I got to go. I got to go do some beer stuff. I'll see you guys in Orlando. Come do some stuff with me. That sounded weird. All right. I got to go. This has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.